I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus I was evil. Say things and break things and Jesus I was evil. I never shook baby.
Take it away, Ben.
Well, first, if you haven't noticed, I'm wearing a hat instead of a bandana because the Mets are in the playoffs. So I might be watching that during the podcast, which is very professional of me. But I have it on over there. Right now, it's not on. So just if I'm looking away, it's because what you're saying isn't very interesting, and there's something better on.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, every time we record, I'm doing a Jeffrey Toobin, so.
Gross, dude. He's back,
Every episode.
I love. Man, that's tough. Like, I know we didn't plan to talk about this, but he's like back.
Yeah.
Which is good in the sense of like we don't want people to get canceled for dumb shit, like never be able to work again.
Sure.
Right. But like, how can you come back from that?
Yeah. How would you like be able to look at your coworkers in the eyes after that? You know,
I don't.
Like...
What's that first day back in the conference room, like in the writer's room or whatever what do you crack a joke about it?
I know.
I don't know. That's a tough one. It's hard to come back from that. Now, I don't know if he's back as in like same group of people. So, he was with the New Yorker, right?
He was, but I think he was also like a CNN.
Was it
analyst
CNN?
Guy? Yeah.
What was the Zoom that it happened in? And if you don't know what we're talking about, he started jerking off. This guy, Jeffrey Toobin, started jerking off during a Zoom work meeting. Like, he thought he was out of the meeting, but he very much was not. And he started taking his pants down. And the rest is history. But I forget if it's CNN or New York or whatever it is. But man, like, I don't know if he'll come back from that one.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you saw. There's a woman. I forgot her name, but she works for CNN, and I followed her. I can't remember her name, but she seems like a pretty moderate, sane person. One of the few sane, moderate people at CNN.
Yeah, it's a rarity.
Yeah, I know, but she was apparently sort of put on. She was suspended for like 7 months for a very dumb reason, because she tweeted a criticism of Toobin, and she was quietly suspended. They didn't tell her that she was suspended.
How does that work?
I don't know. So here's what happened. Oh, I know what happened. She had a baby, and so the reason why they didn't. So I guess she was on maternity leave. I'm thinking, and they just didn't tell her. Oh, by the way, you just don't even report for the next 7 months or whatever. But her only crime was that she tweeted a criticism of Toobin, reasonable, right?
Of jerking off or of something else?
Yeah, no, for jerking off, for being unprofessional. And so they thought that was bad. But here's the thing: Toobin was suspended for like 8 months. So it's like, so she wrote a Substack thing, just saying like, hey, how come this guy does something blatantly unprofessional? I criticized him, and she's always seemed pretty reasonable. She never. It's not like it was profanity and name calling, but it was just sort of like, hey, you know, it seemed pretty mild. And it's like she got suspended for 7 months, and they didn't tell her because she was on maternity. Because she just had a baby, and they thought because of the postpartum thing that she might be kind of a hysterical woman if they told her that she was suspended. So it's like, let's just quietly suspend her. And so she wrote a Substack article about this, and it was insane. It was like this dude.
Dude, send that to me because I'm interested in that. But yeah, if it's man, patriarchy takes many forms. What is that? I love that line Bridget Fetisi always uses when it's like about these quote unquote like trans men who are just predators. Of course, it's a subset we're talking about here, but the ones in the news all the time. And she's like, yeah, the patriarchy so crafty it'll turn itself into a woman to oppress us more.
Oh man. Well, you visited some other state, I think. You went to some art gallery or something recently.
Yeah, I went to the Louvre. You ever heard of it?
Yeah, it's kind of a dump, isn't it?
It's fantastic. So yeah,
Yeah.
I was in Paris.
Yeah. How was that? Seeing like actual real fucking art for once. How was that?
I don't look. I'm a red-blooded goddamn American,
Yeah.
but Paris is the best city in the world. That's my view. It really is. I've been to a best, and I think it's tough to compare different size cities, like major cities. Like in the U.S., I would say the comparisons would be like New York, L.A., Chicago.
Right.
Like there are cities that bat above their weight in terms of culture, even though they're not really that populated. Of course, my favorite American city, New Orleans,
Los Angeles,
is like no. LA's fine. I was very fair about LA, and I'd like to see more of it. I'm sure I'll be back sometime soon. But like New Orleans bats above its weight in terms of culture. If you look at like where New Orleans lands in population, it's between like Irvine, California, and Wichita or something. Like it's not that. Same with San Francisco. Like San Francisco is not very big,
really fucking small, yeah.
But in terms of culture, it's massive. I would say those cities for America, maybe like Miami, now like Dallas, some of those cities I would compare. Maybe not even though, but in terms of like major cities, London, Madrid, Moscow, Berlin, Tokyo, Rio. I haven't been to all of them. I've been to most of them though.
Yeah.
Paris is, I think, the best city. Like. You know what really surprised me about Paris is like there's like no masking.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I would say like, and I go to New York all the time, and I'd say even still, you see a lot of people outdoor masking. You see people riding bikes masking. Subway is probably like 50-50.
Yeah.
Paris, it's got to be. I'd be surprised if it was 10%.
Right.
If that, and even still, you have to remember people were masking before COVID. They were almost all Asians, which is fine. And I actually think masks can be good in some ways.
Sure,
I actually like that. But in terms of, I was very surprised about that. A lot less homeless and much cleaner. I don't know. I love Paris. I think it's the best major city in the world that I've been to. I can't think of any that would really compete with it off the top of my head.
I can think of one, but so how was the Louvre? The
Louvre, I have been before. It's what I forgot about the Louvre is that some of those works of art are gigantic. Like some of those paintings are. It's kind of stunning. A lot of times I feel like when you think of paintings, you kind of have an idea of your head of like everything's around the same shape.
Right.
And of course the contradiction here is that the Mona Lisa is tiny, which a lot of people don't realize. My girlfriend and I walked into where the Mona Lisa is. And I didn't remember this last time I was there. Last time I was there was like 2014. There's literally a line, as in like not a straight line, but a like roped off line, like you're walking through airport security. There's one of those to see the Mona Lisa, and we just walked right out, or we walked around it, saw some of the art around it. It's on its own room. But I remember last time I was there, just walking by it, a like train of like 40 Chinese tourists were in front of it, just like cramming their way through. And I was like, you know what? Not fucking worth it. Again, not worth it. Maybe the third time I'll go, it'll be worth it to see it. But to me, on the flip side of that, a lot of the most well-known pieces are massive, and it's almost like how did someone paint this? Like how do you paint it without like stepping on it or something? I don't, or getting up there, I guess. I don't know, but it's very, I mean, it's the Louvre. Like, is there a museum, at least not a modern art museum, but I don't know, what do you call this, classical art?
I don't know.
Ancient, classical. Some of it's ancient, some of it's classical. It's kind of unprecedented, like, or not unprecedented, but
unique in that regard, where
there's no equal. Right. I don't think. I'm trying to think. I've been to the MoMA and the Met in New York. And
we have the Getty. We have the Getty here, which is kind of, but I don't think it's quite as prestigious. Yeah,
it's pretty incredible. I mean, that's kind of an oxymoron. Pretty incredible. It's incredible. And I still feel like when I go, I don't even see all of it because it's gigantic. Also, and we also went to. I'm a big fan of like small museums, like kind of niche. Museum. My favorite neighborhood's the Montmartre. That's where I stayed. I think might be my favorite neighborhood in the world. I don't know. I love the French Quarter and the West Village in New York. But Montmartre, so we went to like a Montmartre museum specifics. Like the artists that lived there used to be very bohemian. You know, everyone knows like Picasso lived there.
Right.
And a lot of famous Renoir, Valadon. I actually just got my grandmother gave me a print of a Montmartre Street painting, and it's Utrio, who is Valadon's son.
Nice.
It's a print. Awesome if it was original. Probably priceless, but I was like, oh shit, I know who that is now. Like I just was at that museum.
Cool.
So that was very cool. It's I don't know, it's an artful city. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Also, if you're looking to travel to Europe, and now's the time to do it. I couldn't believe this. The dollar was actually worth more than the euro, which like by a couple cents, but that's still like when I was there in 2014, it was like $1 was like 123 or 124 euros. So that's pretty great. Same with the pound. The pound's not 1-to-1, but it's much. I think the pound's like 109 to the dollar. When I was in London, I did a semester there. It was like 1.6. It was kind of So
my roommate Jim was actually he had just gotten back from Europe when you left.
Where was he?
So he was in Paris, Rome, and London. He was shooting a kids show. It's actually interesting. He was in London when the Queen died, and then he was in Italy when the Prime Minister or the fascist lady. So that was actually pretty cool for him to be in Europe during these momentous occasions.
Being in London when the Queen died, that's massive.
Yeah.
Like that's huge. Did we talk about the Queen yet? I don't
think we have.
I don't know. I love London too. I think before I just went to Paris again, if you asked me what's the best big city in the world, I probably would have said London.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, it's like a clean New York City, and I love New York. They just need to get their shit together more. I haven't been to London in a while though, but like a decade now. Actually, I was there exactly a decade this fall. And I love British culture. I'm part English. That's like my second biggest whatever after Italian.
Yeah.
But I don't get the monarchy. Like I don't, and I didn't get it. And I was surprised when I went for the semester. Like I was surprised how many Americans were obsessed with it. I was like, wait a minute, you guys care about this?
Yeah,
and I didn't know. They're like, wait, you don't know that this is this person's son and this in line for whatever, and the Duke of this. I'm like, no, they don't. They're just figureheads who take up a bunch of taxpayer money. Like I didn't really understand. Like I love like actual history of kings and English monarchs and all of that. I think it's really interesting, but not now. So my take on this, and I tweet this, my take is that the monarchy is silly, but Britain's also a silly place. So like whatever.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's my deep take on the monarchy.
On Europe.
on the British monarchy. I'm like, well, they're silly, but
nice, man. Well, I'm glad you had fun.
It was my first time. It was my first time out of the country since
COVID.
I was in Japan like right before COVID, a few months before, and my first time back to Europe since 2014, which I love.
Yeah. Good, man. Well, I had a great time while you were gone.
What were you doing, like rationing electricity and shit?
No, I was actually watching Dokken at the Whiskey A Go Go, and it was actually a pretty bad show.
What's Dokken?
Oh, Dokken the band. Dokken is an 80s hair metal band.
I don't know them. How do you spell it?
Dokken.
Dokken.
Yeah.
Is this like a well-known band? Because I know.
They were pretty big in the 80s.
So they're American.
Yeah.
Oh, they weren't good.
No, the singer.
Well, how old are they now? If they're 80s hair metal.
Well, here's the thing. So not only is Don Dokken the singer, not only is he old, but he also had a cold. So he just sounded like a dude, like just some guy just went up on stage.
Karaoke.
Yeah. But the one thing that is cool is that they did a really cool song for A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 called The Dream Warriors.
Oh, nice.
So they played that song. I thought and it still sounded pretty bad, but it's cool.
Wait, is Nightmare on Elm Street 3, is that like when that come out?
I came in 85.
Oh, okay. So this is I watched. Yeah, we're gonna get into horror movie. Are we doing any of that this episode, or are we waiting to next episode?
Probably wait till the next episode. Right. We'll try and get Jim Clark on
because I do my 80. I do my horror movie binge every October.
Oh yeah.
I did just do. We'll wait to talk about it, but I watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre last night.
The original, the 1974 one.
The original. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just surprised. I didn't realize it was that old.
Yeah.
It's. I think it's very good.
It is.
I don't think all of the classics live up to the hype.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them are good.
Yeah.
But I think that one is one of the better like classics, and I'm kind of going through. I'm going to do Hellraiser soon.
Oh
In
yeah.
a very long time.
Yeah, I have to watch the remake this weekend because I got to write an article for it for next week.
Wait, the remake?
Yeah, it's coming. It just came out today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I have the original on there, but I'll watch the original too. Yeah,
yeah. The original is great. Clive Barker. I'm a big fan of his horror writing, and he wrote and directed Hellraiser. Yeah. So, but yeah, man. So when we get Jim Clark on, I want to play a game with you guys where I have some songs that were based on horror movies. So I want to read the lyrics to see if you guys can guess which movies they're from. So.
Like songs from other bands. Oh,
yeah,
sweet.
Yeah,
fuck yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, we'll get more into horror soon.
Yeah, we'll do that next episode. I do want to, before we dive into this episode, can I do some Nazi jar updates?
Yeah.
We've had a few. This one is from Tristan Snell. This is from September 19th. Fuck, did I do this one already? I don't remember. Talking about the Nazi salute at a Mastriano rally, and it was really praying. All right, did that one? Well, he owes $1 in the Nazi jar. Next one is this is Paul D. Miller. Again, these are all blue checks, so I don't feel bad doing this. This is from September 26th, and of course, blue check Twitter lost their shit when Italy voted in through the democratic process a neo-fascist group, which they're like how neo-fascist can you be if they're talking about like, no, we're not trying to do a dictatorship, we just believe in like these very basic like conservative things that are pretty like right-wing populist now. Some I agree with, some I don't. Right. But he says the Nazis were pro-family. It's like, and but it's like, okay, and right-wingers do this dumb shit too when they try and make Hitler, who actually had a lot of left-wing views. It's like, well, Hitler was a vegetarian, so it's like, okay, so all vegetarians are Nazis. They're like Hitler cared about animal rights and shit. It's like, well, so both sides do this, but Paul D. Miller, you owe $1 for the Nazi jar, and I told him that. And I do want to think, and there's a difference between Italian fascism and Nazism. And I'm not saying I like either of them really, but they're not equivalent.
Right.
So, I am excited what's going to happen in Italy, though.
Yeah, should be
World. I think there always needs to be a little fascism in Europe.
Oh, I mean, is she even a fascist? Like, it just seemed like she seemed pretty conservative chick. She didn't seem like a
Well, the party. I was listening to this. I was listening to a podcast on today. It's like, one, what the fuck is a fascist? Now, I would argue America, like, we're a fascist country, just not in the way people think. I was actually thinking about writing an article about that. It's like people always associate fascism with just like racism and anti-Semitism. It's like, no, fascism is about like combining the state and corporations and media, which like we fucking have. You have the White House telling Twitter to get Alex Berenson off of Twitter. Like, that's combining basically all these pillars of society into one, like a bundle of sticks, which is where fascist comes from, the word. And we have the largest military in the world that the humankind has ever seen. Like, we're pretty fucking close to fascist, if you ask me. But like, because our leader wears a suit instead of a military uniform, then it's like it's all nice. Like, I don't know, but we'll say that for a rainy day. You want? So, what were you gonna say?
Are there any land or air acknowledgements that?
Should we do an air? Well, you haven't found out what we have to go on and find what indigenous land we're occupying. Mine's going to be the Lenape. I know that because we did that. Like, that's basically all that there was in New Jersey, I think. Yeah. California, I don't know, what were you guys out there, like Apaches or something, or Aztecs?
I'm not sure. I'll have to pull up that. So remember when we talked about the Gina Davis Hollywood Reporter luncheon thing?
Yeah.
And then
the Beverly Hills Hotel or something.
Yeah. And they opened with a thing, and they actually mentioned like land acknowledgement. They actually mentioned which tribe this Beverly Hills belonged to.
I love it so much. I love it so much. Because it doesn't. Like that, especially like Beverly Hills land acknowledgement, like it doesn't it's truth is stranger than fiction. Like,
Yeah.
or not, that's not what I mean. What's the term I'm looking for? Like, it's beyond parody.
Right.
Like,
Right.
that would be a bunch of wealthy liberals doing a landing acknowledgement in the Beverly Hills Hotel. That would be a skit in like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
That would be parody, and now it's sincerity.
Yeah, it would be something that you would see on SNL. It would something that you would
Yes.
see like actual genuine left wing people making fun of. Like,
Making
oh
fun
yeah,
of-
you guys claim to be in favor of helping marginalized communities, but you don't do anything.
It's the Martha's Vineyard thing. Like that it was such a troll by DeSantis. And it's so true. It's like they got overwhelmed with, it was 50 fucking people.
Yeah.
You could fit that in like one block of guest houses in Martha's Vineyard.
Right.
And they lost their shit. Yeah, because they're full of it. You know that.
Yeah.
So
Speaking
no,
of other people-
I'm not going to do an air. I'll look up though what air we're breathing, what colonial air we're breathing, and we'll do that for next episode. Let me make a note of it.
Okay, cool. But speaking of people who are stupid and spineless and prefer activism over free discourse. I'm glad that you brought this up. It was the documentary Jihad Rehab, which was helmed by Meg Smaker.
Yeah.
What
go
a
ahead.
story.
Do you want me to? I'm in notes on it.
Go for it.
I'm a big physical paper guy.
Yeah.
So when this first came out, I saw a lot of people making a lot of noise about it, which, like, good. That's good. And first of all, I want to say this is great that this is in the New York Times, because this is very much a criticism of what we're going to get into by Michael Powell. So the New York Times is surprised. They'll write something like this, which is just like so like sensical and like right on the money, and then they'll just write like the most ridiculous shit. Like, I don't know if you just saw today, it was around I didn't read it enough, but it was like basically it sounded like a black homeless guy or psycho or whatever it is, like attacked a woman and killed her dog in Central Park. And the comment and like in the article, it's like, how do we rectify this and protect people while like preserving this person's dignity? And like, I forget what the words were exactly. It's like,
I got it right here.
You out of your fucking mind?
Yeah. So this is in the New York Times. The man is black, the dog owner white. Yeah, because we have to highlight
hold on.
that.
What race was the dog?
I know exactly. Yeah. In a dog-loving progressive enclave where pushing law and order and can clash with calls for social justice, what's the right thing to do? How do you protect the public without furthering injustice against this man?
Furthering injustice against the man, he committed a brutal, violent crime.
Yeah.
Like, put him in prison.
Yeah.
For a long fucking time. He clearly should not be a part of society. Like, he should not be in society.
Yeah, but it's crazy how the New York Times kind of goes back and forth.
It's wild, absolutely wild. So
yeah, because I thought this article was pretty reasonable.
It was very reasonable, and so we'll get into it. So basically, there was a documentary that was original. Originally, the title was Jihad Rehab, but actually got renamed to
UnRedacted.
UnRedacted, yeah, UnRedacted. And people at first, and this seems to be a pattern here, that film critics warn that conservatives might bridle at these the human portrayals of, I mean, maybe terrorists. I don't know because I haven't seen it, but it follows like four at least alleged terrorists because they were put in Guantanamo. Now we know that very innocent people were put in Guantanamo who just like maybe had a association with someone to the 9th degree, or we had like really fucking bad dudes in there. Full mix. I don't know who these 4 individuals, whether they were like really bought in and committed violent crime, or if they just liked a YouTube video of ISIS or something like that.
Right.
So that being said, the concern was that conservatives would be the ones criticizing it because they're showing the humanity of this people, but not so fast. That's not what happened. Unsurprisingly to me, it was the left who attacked this movie, you can at this point, I think, at least especially if you listen to this show, you can guess why. If we didn't say Meg Smaker, if you could have guessed, is a white woman, and the 4 subjects of the movie are not white, and they're all Muslim men. I think they're all Arab Muslim men, and who were in a rehab center in Saudi Arabia, which to me is a oxymoron that they have radical Islamic rehab centers in Saudi Arabia, considering they're the biggest perpetrators of this kind of crazy Islamicism, because they fund madrasas all over the world. I'm not going to get into that, but they're an evil, horrible place that we should have no association with. But our government's a bunch of soy boy beta cucks. Anyway, so originally the film was maybe, I guess, screeners, because it wasn't in the big film festivals yet. So places like The Guardian, if you know The Guardian, they're like very left-wing, very progressive. They stated that this is a movie for intelligent people looking to have their preconceived notions challenged. Variety, also very progressive, kind of typical progressive media, said the film feels like a miracle and an interrogative act of defiance. So and the vast majority of the reviews were positive. And there was really none of the identitarian bullshit going on. But of course, shortly, when enough people caught wind of it, Meg Smaker was accused of Islamophobia and American propaganda. Some suggested her race was disqualifying because she was a white woman who presumed to tell the story of Arab men.
I hate that criticism so fucking much.
It's so dumb and nonsensical. We'll get more into it, because what I liked about this article too was it didn't make me want to just burn everything to the ground, because it had some pushback and reasonable people in it. And I think it ended with, although it's minor, ended with exactly what I want to see more of. And we'll get to that at the end with the festival that did accept it. So should I just read sections of it?
Yeah.
I'll skip a lot of the kind of her personal story.
Yeah.
But so Sundance, of course, reversed themselves and apologized, because Sundance, and for people who don't know, there's and Joe, you can correct me if you're wrong, if I'm wrong, but there's 4 major film festivals. The 4 big ones are Sundance in Utah, TIFF in Toronto, Venice, and Cannes. Those are the 4 kind of Mount Rushmore of film festivals. Of course, there are thousands of film festivals, but this is a big deal. This is the biggest one in the United States.
I think the South by Southwest one's pretty big too. But that one's newer, so it doesn't have quite as much.
It's newer, and also to me, I think there's something about South by Southwest just an everything festival though?
Yeah. It's more of a sort of pop culture tech thing rather than
it seems. I've read some shit about South by South. It's very tech bro-y and whatever. Sure, I'm sure it's a big deal. If I ever made a film, I'd love it to premiere there, right? Yeah. But Sundance is old school, and it's the most it's a big deal if you get accepted there. So anyway, Abigail Disney, who is the grandniece of Walt Disney, had been an executive producer of Jihad Rehab and called it freaking brilliant in an email to Miss Smaker. And surprise, surprise, now she disavowed it. The film landed like a truckload of hate, Miss Disney wrote in an open letter. I want to put on the record that Abigail Disney is a spineless piece of crap. Yeah. And since then, when your executive producer calls it a truckload of hate, hard to bounce back from that. So Miss Smaker's film has become near untouchable, unable to reach audiences. Prominent festivals rescinded invitations, and critics in the documentary world took to social media and pressured investors, advisors, and even her friends to withdraw names from the credits. She is close to broke. So this is real world consequences. This isn't, some passion project of an A-list celebrity. This was her life's work for many years.
And this is actual cancellation. This isn't just a celebrity missed out on a TV show, but they're a millionaire. They'll get another deal. This is an actual hardworking person.
It's so gross.
She was a no-name person. This is
Well, this whole part of one thing, you can take to Twitter and criticize it all you want, right? We don't care about that. But you're pressuring investors and friends to disavow it. That is so Maoist and creepy to me that like what like why would you do that? What would possess you to do that?
Yeah, it's such a mean girls thing to do. Like just like assassinate the reputation, like just chip away at it.
Yeah. So of course it turns into everyone making this about themselves, and this was many like Arab and or Muslim filmmakers saying things that are absurd, like to see my language and the homelands of my folks in my community used as backdrops for white savior tendencies is nauseating. And this is, by the way, this is a woman named Asiya Bandawi. She called on festivals to allow Muslims to create films that concern themselves not with war but with life. This is another one of those instances where, like, I don't understand when something happens, like a movie gets made, like the black character or the Muslim character, whatever it is, they're not like a representation of every single person in that, however you want to carve it up. The gay character, whatever it is, like in this circumstance, this documentary is about rehabbing either terrorists or extremists or whatever it is. They're not representative of every Muslim man.
Right.
And that's what always this devolves to. I don't know. With the so of course it gets into the argument over whether artists should share racial or ethnic identity and sympathy with their subjects is long running in literature and film, with many artists and writers like the documentarians Ken Burns and Nanfu Wang arguing it would be suffocating to tell the story of only their own culture, and that the challenge is to inhabit worlds different from their own. Which like was not very controversial very long.
I know. Yeah.
Actors acted, they played roles of all different types of people. I do think we agree there's a limit on that. I don't think white people should be playing black people, right? There is a weird kind of, it is touchy. Like I think that you can go certain degrees, but I think if you do like the four main kind of races, like white, black, Asian, even, I don't know, maybe Latino, which is like a mix of a lot of different things. And then you kind of have Middle Eastern, but like I know like Gael Garcia Bernal played an Iranian in, I think it was Rosewater or something, and that seemed to be fine. But yeah, you can't have a white guy doing yellowface, right? I understand that.
Sure.
But like that used to be not controversial at all. You'd have an Italian actor playing a Swedish person, right?
Right. Well, here's the thing, like this isn't even touching on that. This is simply, I mean, you know, she, as far as I can tell, she put in the work. Like, you know, like I said, we won't get into much into her backstory, but she was living in the Middle East. She was staying in Yemen, and she was visiting these places, and she'd been there for years. So this isn't just like a white woman who, I read an article about this thing, I'm going to go interview them. So, no, she was living there and interacting with the culture there. So
and even if she didn't, it's her time and resources, and if she didn't do that stuff, she probably would have made a shitty documentary and wouldn't have got accepted, and wouldn't have gotten accepted on its laurels, not on identity.
Exactly.
Like, and I don't know why that's so controversial now to a certain segment. So I'll continue. In the case of Jihad Rehab, the identity critique is married to the view that the film must function as political art, shoot me in the face, and examine the historic and cultural oppressions that led to the imprisonment of these men at Guantanamo. Like, first of all, look, if I were president, I would shut down Guantanamo.
Yeah.
I think it's really shitty and really goes against our values. That being said, like a lot of the guys there are fucking monsters, and they would kill all of us if they could. Not all of them, but like I think that's this argument that like they're all oppressed. Well, they should be oppressed. Some of them, they should have their, you know, if it's international, they should be tried in international tribunals, or if it's on American soil, tried in our courts and get a lawyer and jury with their peers and same rights as everyone else. But like to say that they're oppressed is just, I don't like, I get actually really angry about the way that so many liberals approach like whatever you want to call it, the Muslim issue. Like
Right.
they kind of all just, it's the one area where they all, like, all their values just get lost.
Right.
Like
Right.
these are some of the most conservative people in the world, and they're like against gay marriage, and they're against, like, not just gay marriage, against gay people, and against
Right.
your way of life, and are domestic abusers,
Right.
and like really just the antithesis of what you stand for, but they defend them for some reason.
Yeah, they stretch cultural relativism like well past its reasonable.
That's the term.
moral.
Yes, cultural relativism, which is a term I've just kind of like started to, like, I guess I never really bothered to learn what that is, but now I understand it more, and I hate it. But it's like okay, but they're in our culture now.
Exactly.
Like they're in Western Germany, or they're in Stockholm or New York. Like, and again, it's not all of them, of course. It's but you don't need all of any population to create havoc and violence and misery. They can be small subsets. But anyway, it is this weird thing where, like, it's this one population where they just like lose their shit. Like they lose all of their values and morals. But anyway, so that's kind of the crux of the arguments against it, and the criticisms of it. And again, it's beyond criticism. It was just like, like you said, it was a legit cancellation.
Yeah.
So Sundance, like I said, rescinded it. Some of the other things were like more of the identity politics. The writer, what's his name here? Michael Powell goes on. An entirely white team behind a film about Yemeni and South Arabian men, the filmmaker Violeta Ayala wrote in a tweet. That's what she's criticizing, that basically just like the most superficial argument. She did leave out that the film had a Yemeni American executive producer and a Saudi co-producer. So it's not like she leaves out that inconvenient detail. And of course, then you get this is one of my favorite lines. More than 230 filmmakers signed a letter denouncing the documentary. A majority had not seen it. and unfortunately, that's just par for the course.
Yeah.
Like that's
so fucking typical of these woke mobs. Very, very, very quick tangent. I think it was at Yale where the students were going to their library and removing books from the shelves that they thought were problematic, and it was based entirely on the cover. So if there was like some old book from like some like Pulp Fiction book where they had like a woman like kind of like is sort of a very sultry position or something like that, it's like, oh, let's get rid of it because it's portraying women in a negative way or something like that. But so you didn't even read the fucking book though, or if it was like based on a different culture, it's like, and the students even admitted they didn't read the books, they just didn't like the covers.
When did this happen?
This was a few years ago, like 2018 or 2019. Okay. Or maybe it was Georgetown. Anyway, some big university, but the students it was like
Yale's lost their shit. There's
like
a bunch of federal judges who were not even taking like Yale law graduates as their clerks. Yeah, it's coming out. Yale, if you don't know, is like one of the top law schools in the country.
Yeah.
So for federal judges to say we're not taking clerks from there anymore is pretty like unreal. Like if you go through a history of the Supreme Court, I don't know what percentage, but like really Supreme Court justices come from a handful of law schools.
Yeah.
It's Harvard, Yale, Georgetown, maybe a Stanford or something like, it's a handful of schools really that make up, I would say, 2/3 to 3/4 of Supreme Court justices. And,
why is that though? I mean, why are they not taking Yale law students?
Because they're a bunch of crit psychopaths. Like they're causing problems. I mean, I'm pretty sure as a Yale law student who leaked a Yale law grad who leaked the abortion brief, the Alito penned abortion brief.
Yeah.
So, and I get like why, which I think is good. Like I think that's the kind of and we're gonna get to that. There's actually a good cross section with this article. I think that's what has to happen. Like there have to be consequences for your behavior, or else like people aren't going to change their behavior if there aren't consequences. And I think that's a good one. Now this is like a handful of judges that hopefully catches on. And some might be doing this just not overtly, right? Just subversively.
Yeah.
This was like the Fifth Circuit, which the Fifth Circuit is probably one of the most conservative circuits. It's based actually in New Orleans. It's like Texas, Louisiana, and maybe Mississippi. So it's generally like a very conservative circuit.
Yeah.
But that's where I saw it. But like it's a bunch now. It's probably growing, and a bunch probably have been doing that for years.
Yeah,
we're not taking that. It's not worth it. Well, it's not worth the headache.
Right.
So anyway, getting back to the article.
Yeah.
The more of this, I love the just centering yourself, because everyone has to do that now.
Yeah.
When I, a practicing Muslim woman, say that this film is problematic, wrote Jude Chihab, a Lebanese American documentarian, my voice should be stronger than a white woman saying that it isn't. Point blank. Like what?
Yeah.
Like what? Like what do you talk? So first of all, you're saying that like you're associating with the terrorists, and I don't think that's the route you want to go down. But like, what are you talking about? Like solely based on who you are, your opinion matters more,
right? And also, it seems like in that it's kind of a cell phone thing, because it's like she's the one ceding ground to a white woman. She's the one. It's like, how did this woman take away your voice? Like what? Like you're the one saying that she took away your voice, but she didn't do anything.
What? And like, should I argue that this Arab Muslim woman shouldn't criticize white men? Like can you not tell a story or say, like, if I say that something you create about a white man or white men is problematic, my say like, no, of course not. Like, of course that wouldn't be the argument.
Right.
So it's just a ridiculous, and this isn't some 20-year-old at Yale. Like, this is a documentarian. Now, okay, documentarian, who knows what that really means, but like, I don't know, she was fucking quoted in the New York Times.
Yeah.
Right? She probably has some sort of credentials.
Right.
But anyway, it's a wild, absolutely wild string of logic. So then, of course, you get the snowball effect. The apology shook the industry. Shortly after Sundance apologized, South by Southwest rescinded its invitation. Ms. Disney's note came a week later. In April, the San Francisco Festival dropped the film. So it's not just Sundance. It's like, that's true cancellation. It wasn't just like one festival. Even if it's a big one, it's one after the other. But of course, we get some, I don't know if it's good news, but some reasonableness. Jihad Turk, which, if you want to get stopped at an airport, name your child that. Former imam of Los Angeles' largest mosque, was baffled. In December, his friend Tim Disney, brother of Abigail, invited him to a screening. My first instinct, he said, was, oh, not another film on jihad and Islam. Then I watched, and it was introspective and intelligent. My hope is that there is a courageous outlet that is not intimidated by activists and their too narrow views. Me too, Jihad.
I know.
Me too.
Yeah, kudos to you, Jihad.
Good. I like that guy.
Yeah.
In June.
Good in my book.
What was that?
He's good in my book.
Yeah, he's good in my book. Then here's like what the author says, an elusive happy ending. In June, Miss Smaker received another screening at the Dock Edge Festival in New Zealand. She hopped a flight to Auckland with trepidation. With this ending cancellation, word had leaked out, and Mr. Mullen, the Toronto film critic, tweeted a warning. Oh no. Oh, wild. Controversial Sundance doc Jihad Rehab comes out of hiding, he wrote, adding, why would anyone program this film after Sundance? File under, we warned you. Dan Shannon, who heads the New Zealand festival, shrugged. Yeah. And I have next to this, I wrote right here, yes. Like, that's what we need more of. Yeah. Just people going, all right, like, okay, I hear you, but all right, like we need more deans of universities and presidents of universities and CEOs of companies and judges and stuff to just go like, okay, like, so what? Yeah. Like good. So that's what, now this is, a small festival in New Zealand, which of course, they're better than Australia, I guess, but they also have a psychopath, dumb bitch prime minister or whatever, whose mouth is too big. Yeah. But, what happened at Sundance was not good, he said. Film festivals mishold to their belief in their role. Yeah. So this guy's awesome. Like, but he's also just, what's awesome now, he's just like normal.
Right.
I
love Smaker's response. It says here, Ms. Smaker said a public relations firm recommended that she apologize. What was I apologizing for? She said, for trusting my audience to make up their own mind. It's like, that to me is what I think a good documentarian should do.
That's good. Did I not say that? My bad. I had that bracketed, but yeah. Also, I skipped that to talk about the practicing Muslim woman. Yes, exactly. Like, she didn't apologize because she easily could have.
Yeah.
And someone in her position, well, like, it wouldn't have done anything for her, but I get the reaction. It's like, she needs this.
Right.
Like, she needs this financially. And I would understand the natural reaction to apologize, to save the invitation. It still wouldn't work, as we've gone over several times, but people still haven't figured that out yet. Most people haven't figured that out yet. But yeah, I love that she was like, what am I apologizing for?
Right. And I think, not just with documentaries, but I think art in general. I think, when art takes a firm stance, specifically a very firm political stance, it becomes propaganda. I love when an artist, a storyteller, can present multiple sides of a story and leave it up to the audience to determine. I think, it makes something much more engaging. I think it makes much more lasting. Because when you're saying, oh yeah, this is what I think, and this is why I think the world is bad or why it's good or whatever, and it's like, okay, but then it's not going to last very long because you've already said exactly what it means. But if it's something where it's like people can debate it and argue it, that'll preserve it. That'll make it last longer, I think.
Absolutely. I think people are tired of kind of being hit over the head with who said it in this article. I wanted to roll my eyes till they fell out of my head. It's like political art, like it's
political art. Yeah.
Like, first of all, art has been political from the beginning, and it can do that naturally and tastefully and tactfully, where it's actually more powerful.
Yeah.
But so much of this is just not that. I'm looking for the quote, but it is this idea that like all art, or not just art, like literally everything must promote social justice.
I have it right here. In the case of Jihad Rehab, the identity critique is married to the view that the film must function as political art and examine the historic and cultural oppressions that led to the imprisonment of these men at Guantanamo.
Yeah, which no, it doesn't have to do that at all. It can be a lot of different. It could show how maybe these guys are monsters. Or maybe they're not. Maybe they are products of their environment. Maybe it's a mix.
Yeah.
But what happens, especially, like, to be honest, there's a point, and I might be at that point again, I don't know, where I stopped watching documentaries. A few kind of broke me. One, I started watching them for more practical reasons, is because there's too many and they don't need to exist.
Yeah.
And I don't need like a 6-part. Like, the one that broke me recently, this wasn't for anything political. It was the one about the girl in LA, actually, the Asian girl who was found in the water tank.
I didn't care much for that.
Didn't care much for it. It could have been 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It was. Here, I'm going to spoil it for you right here. She had mental health issues and she crawled up and drowned. Like, she was doing weird shit, creepy shit with her hands, and she wasn't taking her medicine. And that should have been the end of it. But it went on and on. Like, someone lured her out, and she was at the bookstore, and like her writings and all this other shit. It's like, no, she had mental health issues. She wasn't on her medicine, and she accidentally killed herself.
It's creepy and disturbing. But the part that pissed me. Okay, I'm gonna go on a quick rant about this stupid documentary.
Go for it. Yeah.
Because it was like, I remember there's I think it was like the second or third part, because I think it was a 4-part thing or something. But
it felt like it had 40 parts.
Yeah. But in one of them, in one of the segments, they were interviewing YouTubers. And it was like, but these people, they were not experts. They were purely online people. Yeah. Well, one guy
became, and this, I feel like this always happens, like weirdly obsessed with it.
Yes.
Like very weirdly obsessed with it. Yeah.
And then it was probably the same guy. And he was talking about how when they found her body, and he goes like, like I felt like I'd known her, and like somebody that I knew and cared about had passed away. And it's like, dude, like, you're on YouTube. And it's like, You did not know her. You did not correspond with her. Like, stop
Yeah.
acting like it was so stupid. It was
So
dumb.
that one pissed me off because it could have been like a 30-minute podcast.
Yeah.
But other ones pissed me off. The Making a Murderer one really pissed me
Oh.
off because that was political. That was just a very, anti-cop, like whatever. Kind of. There maybe was some class commentary there, but like not really. Like they were very poor, but like clearly that filmmaker left out damaging evidence. Where I was one of those guys. I was in law school, very much social justice warrior, like my brother and I talking on the phone about how corrupt the system is. And don't get me wrong, those cops were definitely corrupt and definitely planted evidence and all that shit. Yes. But like writing letters to politicians and shit like that. And then I think it was the New Yorker who came out with a good article. It's like, no, like they left out evidence that any reasonable viewer, as if you're a juror, which is what you are in a true crime documentary, would want to hear and go like, oh wait, maybe he totally fucking did it. Like maybe like they left out that he called her like 100 fucking times or something, or like other evidence, like he stalked her and things like that. And they left all of that out. Like, no, you're clearly just pushing a perspective that's not neutral. And I guess I naively thought that, all documentaries are neutral, and doing what you said is like presenting the art, or in this case, the facts, and then you draw your conclusions because maybe they don't have a conclusion because it's a unsolvable murder or whatever, or someone's they believe was wrongfully convicted or whatever it is. But for you to make that with all the evidence that exists, not what not the message you want to push. And that prosecutor, do you remember, did you watch Making a Murderer?
No.
Okay, well, there's a prosecutor that they vilified like really, really bad. He like really suffered from this. Yeah, he like really, like, he was doing his job, and they like, I hated him watching it, right? And I get it, where he's like, they didn't show the good evidence. Because people are like, there is a such thing called like prosecutorial discretion, where a prosecutor doesn't have to take a case if there's not, the evidence isn't there. Like they don't have to charge them because they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the crime existed. So like people are like, well, why you take, like, you're doing this because you hate this guy and class or whatever, that shit. And it's like, no, because he had really good evidence that the filmmaker didn't present. So, and that has real life consequences. Like, I don't, it's really, so a lot of those, like, so I'm off a lot of documentaries, and then I roll my eyes now when I see them, because every single incident that happens, they're going to make like 3 Hulu documentaries about it. And it just like, I'm over it. I get that shit from podcasts now and stuff if I want it.
Right. Yeah, I hear you, man. But real quick, I want to bring up the New York Times, after they published this article on the thing. They published some letters from readers, and it's interesting that they published both sides of the argument here. Just want to go through a few of these real quick. There's one. This is a very good one. It's a short one. Meg Smaker is chided for presuming to see and speak of people not evidently enough like her to permit the attention. But we each are ultimately unknowable to all others. Art is meant to explore and perhaps illuminate the contours of that gulf. Must we be limited to writing only autobiography? I really like that. That's a really good one.
Like reasonable take. Like, and also what I fucking don't like the one of these one of these quotes I read in here, like you're Lebanese, like, okay, you're not Yemeni, you're not South Arabian, which I guess would be like southern part of Saudi Arabia. Like Lebanon's a totally different country, actually. Like it's majority Muslim, but it's actually one of the much more moderate ones, of course, for Hezbollah, but they're Shia. So like, so where do you divide lines? Like, because like Lebanon's actually has a huge Christian population. It's in a different part of the world. Like Sana'a and Beirut are probably as close as like, I don't know, Berlin and Lisbon, maybe. Like, I don't know if it's that, like, it's not like they're right next to, so like, do we lump Portuguese people in with people from Bavaria because they're both Catholic? Probably.
Right.
Like that's ridiculous. Like that's a
Right.
ridiculous thing. And you just lump all these people together, which, as we always say, is like that's doing a disservice. Like, no, you don't all think the same. There's different schools of Islam. There's different like sects of Islam, and like that's just an absurd thing to say.
Yeah.
And if you went over there, like that's a very I don't know, I think they said Lebanese American. Like it's a very American thing to do. That's like saying, oh, all the Guatemalans are same as the Colombians and shit like that.
Right.
Like, no, they're like, you go to them, they're like, we're not like them. Like,
Right.
we're totally different people.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing to your own quote unquote. And of course, she uses the gender neutral homelands of folks in your homeland. Have you ever been to Yemen? Like that's your homeland? I get it, but you've never been to Yemen, you dumb bitch. Like, I was shocked if you've been to Yemen.
No. This is a more critical take on the article, but I'm curious to get your take on it though. Your article fails to capture the full story behind this problematic documentary. Condemnations of the documentary go well beyond identity politics and go straight to the core of the film, focusing the controversy on a debate between a white filmmaker and a group of Muslims, oversimplifies the film's unethical nature, portraying the filmmaker, Meg Smaker, as a victim and glossing over the real damage the film's Islamophobic approach has caused. So far, this sounds kind of like bullshit, right? But Howard, there's something interesting here. Okay. Most egregiously, Ms. Smaker's film directly put the lives of the Yemeni men seen in the film in danger. In an open letter published by the London-based advocacy organization Cage, one of the men explicitly stated he didn't want to appear in the film and said that it posed a serious risk to their lives, and to their families' lives. So that's fine. If you're gonna criticize the documentary for ethical reasons, I think that's totally fair.
Yeah, that's totally fair. But as we my response to this person would be, but that's not what they're criticizing the film for. They criticize the film for identitarian reasons. If there was a criticism for that reason, like an ethical reason, okay, like sure, that then yeah, maybe I don't know what kind of rules Sundance or a film, like maybe they have to cut those sections of it. Like of course, but that's like that person just strawmanned the whole thing. Like, and I think at one point Sundance did say she had to get
they had to do like a whole like review. She had to get like extra permission from like the men who appeared in it,
which they said is unprecedented.
Yeah, I know, that's insane.
Yeah, so yeah, I agree with you. But does this person have a name?
Yeah, this is fuck you, Anthony Kaufman.
Okay, Anthony Kaufman. Like that's not what these critics are saying. Maybe there are critics who said that, and if Michael Powell left that out, okay, well, but that's not what these critics are saying. These critics are solely basing it off of identity politics. So you're dumb, Mr. Kaufman.
It's so funny whenever you see woke people like this, when there's actually valid criticism to make about a certain person, but they go for like the stupid identitarian aspect. So I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, Tarantino got in trouble for the filming of Kill Bill, of the Kill Bill movies, and one of them because Uma Thurman, I think she was being interviewed. I think, and so she was talking about how for one of the scenes, her character gets spit on, and so it was actually Tarantino who spit on her in the film. You don't see him because he's off camera, but he's the one who spits on her because I guess he wanted it done a certain way. So that's one thing that people thought, oh, that's misogynistic. And then another thing that Tarantino did wrong was that Uma Thurman her character was driving down a dirt road, and so they rehearsed it and everything totally planned. But at the last second, Tarantino said, actually, we're going to do this shoot down a different road. But it was a road that she was unfamiliar with. So there was like a pothole and she crashed the car and she got injured. But woke people got upset because Tarantino spit on Uma Thurman, even though she agreed to it. Like he talked to her about it. He walked her through it, but they were, oh, that's misogynistic. A man spitting on a woman while she's on the ground. It's like, no, you should be upset that Tarantino put her life in danger by having her drive down a road that she hadn't rehearsed yet. That's the thing we should be criticizing, not the spitting thing. Right. But same thing here. It's like, if you want to criticize Smaker for ethical reasons, go for it. Maybe there's some truth there, but don't get caught up in the dumb identity shit.
Yeah. Well, and what they would say to the rebuttal to what you said about her, consenting to it, their response would be, well, he's a man in power, and you can't consent and all that. And it's a circular argument that is stupid.
Yeah.
But especially with like someone like Uma Thurman, first of all, she's like an A-list celebrity and had worked with him before. It's not like this is some, new artist who's not going to say no to someone like Quentin Tarantino.
Right.
Like they're like friends. But yeah, I totally agree with you. And I feel like there's lots of another example would be, look at the downfall of Cuomo. He killed like hundreds of people by knowing that how the coronavirus spread and that elderly people were much more at risk, sending them all back in like cramped living spaces that no one seemed to give a shit about. Also kind of like they kind of got a little mad at him about the book, like basically during the height of the coronavirus where he's giving these FDR type speeches on TV. He actually has his whole team like working on his book using taxpayer funds to write and edit and produce the book, obviously that all these wine moms are going to buy. That still didn't really get him canned. It was the Me Too shit.
Yeah.
Like he wanted a busty New York police officer to be like sit on his lap. Of course, not cool, but like that's his downfall.
Yeah, exactly.
Not this other shit.
This is why the obsession with identity is so dumb. I mean, it's reason number 3,722 why the obsession with identity is so bad.
It's beyond dumb and banal and old, and I think, we've been saying there's been a vibe shift and there's some pushback, and I think there's going to be more and more of it, which is really good. I think there needs to be more of like this awesome guy in New Zealand who shrugged, like, okay, like I hear you. I've obviously seen the movie, that's why I've accepted it. And okay, go write a column about it.
Right.
That's fine. I just don't know why there's not more of that. Like I try and think from their perspective. Okay, Sundance doesn't rescind the invitation, right? And screens it. What are they afraid of exactly? Because there is a legitimate, don't get me wrong, there is a legitimate argument here that is unique to this population that like, no, we could get fucking bombed. Like we could get suicide, but like, because they're that nuts. They're extremes of all types. Like the Muslim extreme, it's the worst when it comes to art. Look at Charlie Hebdo. It's the worst. Look at Satanic Verses. Like that doesn't happen with Christians and with Jews and with Hindus, at least not in America and not in Europe, right? This is a unique problem with this population. So that is a different argument. It's like, no, we've gotten bomb threats, credible sources. Like we can't do it. We can't put our people at risk. I would understand that. It's hard to tell someone. No, like it's hard to tell someone like, no, you have to do this for art's sake. Like meanwhile, they're gunning down, cartoonists in the street. They're gunning down Sundance employees. Like, but that's not what happened here. What happened here was that people took to Twitter. So I was expecting that actually. I was expecting for Sundance to say like, no, we've got incredible like bomb threats. We've got incredible attacks, or like threats of attack, but nope. It was Lebanese Americans getting pissed off on Twitter, centering themselves because everyone has to indulge in the vapors of their own farts.
Most of them who have not even seen the film.
Yes, most of course not. Well, why bother doing that, Joe? Why bother doing that?
It's so funny that they always lecture everyone else to do the work, but they won't do it themselves though. But yeah, I mean that's just par for course.
Of course not. Of course not.
But real quick, I do want to gloss over a little bit. Abigail Disney's her apology. So so bad.
I hold on. Can I? I'm gonna. I've not looked this up. I promise. I'm gonna tell you what the apology says, and then you can read it and see how close I am. Okay. It's something like. Let me see. I'm seeing it. Okay. It's something along the lines of, we are appalled and disgusted by the something like lack of foresight, doing the work and being better. Maybe allyship is in there. Definitely about not using our platform properly and augmenting. They wouldn't use a voice like that, but uplifting voices of Black and brown, or in this case, just brown women of color. And we hope that the next time we will not overlook these issues. Like, am I in the ballpark here?
Ben, you've got a gift for boldly predicting the recent past. Well, seriously, you left out conversation. There needs to be the conversation needs to continue.
Okay.
But other than that, you pretty much hit all of those. I don't think allyship is here.
Well, it should be. She has to apologize for. Can I apologize for the apology? I love that Larry David meme. Can I apologize for the apology?
Oh wait, well technically, so she uses the word especially. That has the word ally in it. But she hits on so many of the things that you mentioned there. I'm so sorry for all these failures. Given the gravity of the issues involved, I did not insist on a full fact-checking process. I did not carefully enough vet the tone and language used to represent the four protagonists. I should have pushed back on the idea that the protagonist consented to appear okay, whatever. So she actually lists out a lot of the things that she did wrong. It's a pretty long thing. My mistakes are myriad, so I will not be able to claim them all in a single list, but I will try. And she spends like 3 pages doing it.
I think that she should be publicly executed for this transgression.
And yeah, I think so. Oh, you know what's funny?
By the state. That's not a threat of violence. No one should harm her in any way. The state should try her for her hate crimes and then publicly execute her.
Yeah, just let me call
in
off
Yemen.
The hitman. Calling off the hitman right now. Okay. No. So this is interesting though. So she sent an email privately to, I guess, people associated. It just says to my colleagues in the documentary community. So it was like a private apology. But I guess everyone was like, "Oh, this is such a great apology. You should share it with everyone."
I want to become, how like presidents of speech writers, like I want to become an apology writer for blue checks. just like crit lib idiots who are apologizing for the dumbest shit. Like I'm gonna create like a Fiverr account.
The template would be called like Mad Libs for Sad Libs or something like.
Yeah, that's good.
No, but seriously, because she says here on February 23rd, I addressed a personal email to a group of Muslim and MENA filmmakers that had expressed concern about a film I executive produced. I sent it privately because apologies are not a performance, and that when harm is done, it is first and foremost important to apologize with sincerity. On February 25th, a representative of the group contacted me and asked me to publish the contents of the letter because they and others felt that it served as a model for how to address a moment of deep cultural division and pain. So it's like this is really good. It's a good apology.
It's a template that gets like posted on the Google Docs.
Oh God,
it's amazing. I love it. No, I don't love it. I hate it because it has real consequences.
Yeah,
like it's funny, but it's also so fucked up.
Yeah.
And what's gonna happen is people like Meg Smaker, like they're gonna start just sending shit to the Daily Wire, and stuff like because they're the ones who are gonna show this stuff,
right? Yeah.
I don't know. I would like to support her by watching it. Can you stream it? Or
I'm not sure.
Maybe it's still kind of doing the circuit where
it might still be
accepted.
Doing I think it still needs to play at the Alex Jones International Film Festival.
I would love to go to the Alex Jones International Film Festival. Turn frogs gay.
But no, you make a good point though, where it's like, they'll, the SJW types, they'll bitch and moan about the fact that this stuff exists. But then like it's like, okay, well then you're just shoving them into the more extreme corners then. And then so it's like, we should shine a spotlight in this in the mainstream. Especially like we said, like it sounds, we haven't seen it, but it sounds like a very thoughtful work. It doesn't sound like she's taking, a decisive stance against one side or the other. She wants to look at it. So it doesn't seem like it's like an incendiary work at all. But everything's incendiary these days. So,
yeah, I would like to see it if possible. I mean, obviously, eventually it'll come out on streaming, and I will watch this documentary. And I just railed against documentaries because a lot of them are very stupid and could just be like a 45-minute podcast.
Yeah, maybe it'll show up on like the Daily Stormer's website or something.
The Stormer. Speaking of Alex Jones, did you I know I texted you when I was watching Waking Life. Like, if you want to watch that and talk about it, it's really cool. Like, it's a lot of like existentialist questions, and it's a weird movie because it's just like conversations, or more, not even so much conversations, a lot of just like soliloquies, I guess.
Okay, yeah. So this is the Linklater film.
Yeah, Alex Jones is in it.
Oh, really?
He's like driving, because it all takes place in Texas. I think Austin, because that's where Linklater's from. Yeah. And he's like just driving around with one of those like old school car horns, like that with the microphone on top, and he's just like yelling into it, talking, and it's all like, it's awesome because he, like, at that time, that came out in 2001, Alex Jones was really against the Bush administration. Yeah. And still is. Like, that's how he got, I think, really popular, was he was really anti-war, which he has stuck to that, I think. Yeah.
And he also exposed the Bohemian Grove thing too. Like, he was one of the first ones to
Bohemian Grove, which is amazing. I don't know how serious that is. I don't know if it's just a bunch of blue bloods want to go like diddle each other, or if there's like actual they have like, they create real policy or whatever there. I don't know, but it's definitely fucking weird.
Yeah, definitely.
But we should watch that and talk about it. I could rewatch it, but it's very interesting. I think it talks a lot about it's a lot about like dreams, which I know people don't really like a lot, but like, no, this is actually interesting. Yeah. And about just like existence, existentialist questions, our role in society, like those sorts of things. It's very cool. Yeah. It's very different. It would not get made today. Yeah.
I like Richard Linklater. So I'll definitely check out. I need to check out more of his films. I've only seen a few of his movies, but I've always really enjoyed them. So
it feels like a movie that should get promoted now. It's like 21 years old, and it's very Gen X. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of like consumerism talk and stuff in there that's like a very Gen X thing. Yeah. But if that film was made today, it would just be like gender this, race that. Right. It would be really nauseating, just floating around a city like Austin. Yeah. It would probably be like really shitty, but like the fact it was made back then is much more interesting. Yeah. Because it's more universal. Like, it's not it's more inclusive, in that, like, real inclusive in that sense. Anyway, all right. I think we're good.
Yeah. That was good.
Right. It was all right.
Yeah. I liked it better when you weren't here.
I was saying here, I've missed one episode.
I know, it was fun.
Who are we getting on next episode?
Hopefully Jim Clark. That'll be fun.
Jim Clark, yeah, that would be fun. He's a big horror movie guy. We definitely got to do at least one horror episode, maybe two for October. Yeah. I know he was saying Terrifier 2. Have you seen that? Have you seen the first one?
You know what's funny is that my roommate loves Terrifier 1, and he hates clowns and he hates slasher movies, but he's like, no, like, this is actually a really fun movie. And so it looked really dumb, but like, apparently there's a cult fan base around it now. Yeah, so now I want to check out those movies.
I've seen parts of it. It is really violent. Yeah, I don't know, kind of a turn off to me. I don't know. It's very, very, very violent.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, but hey,
violence, no. But yeah, I heard it's very tongue in cheek though.
It's a bit much. Yeah. Some of the violence is a bit much. Yeah. But anyway.
That'll be fun. Do some horror stuff, some Reckless Spooky cast.
Well, we'll see if I show up next episode. This might be my last episode.
All right, cool.
I take it if I up. All right. Have a good weekend. Everyone. Fight the crits.
Fight the crits. Stay reckless.
Yeah.